This video is sponsored by Aquashine Exteriors, professional jet washing and cleaning services across Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, including Dorset, Hampshire and Wiltshire. Are you feeling it's time to get that driveway nice and shiny for when you come home, or are you wanting to get that guttering tidied up and spotless again? They deliver this, plus much, much more. Please head into the description below where you'll find their details for their website, including the socials, Facebook and Instagram. You also need to find their before and after portfolio. You can also call them on 07503 998 088 for a free quotation. Don't wait till next week. Don't think you'll do it another day. Pick up the phone, give them a call, check them out. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cherries Red Army. We are live on YouTube. I do apologise for the slight delay. This is what happens in the technical world, but we are with you now. Everyone is already joining us in the chat, so do get your hellos in there. There's lots of you already in the room, and I'll give you a shout out in a moment. If you're new to the channel, though, please do subscribe and go and hit that like button as I talk to you about Wolves versus AFC Bournemouth this weekend. It simply is a massive game for the Cherries, and Wolves are trying to pull away from that relegation zone, so doesn't get any bigger than this, does it, this weekend? We have got an AFC Bournemouth guest standing by. We've also got those predicted lineups. We've got your score predictions that I want at the end, and an opposition view from All Waves Wolves. So we've got a very, very jam-packed preview for you. We'll be here for about 35, 40 minutes. Get your thoughts in those chat comments. We'll show some on the screen, and we'll get stuck into it. Because if we're going to stay up, there's one thing we need to achieve this weekend. It feels like there's only one outcome that will really, really work for the Cherries, and that is a must-win.
Cheeky one, square, and
Wolves versus AFC Bournemouth this weekend, and I've got Bournemouth fan Matt Davies with me. We've got something to build on going into this fixture. We did come to this show a little bit late, Matt, but we're here now. I'm looking forward to talking about this game with you.
Yeah, good evening, Kirk. Great to be here again. Another massive game in our season on Saturday. And as you've already sort of touched upon, it's I wouldn't quite call it a must win, but it's definitely a must not lose.
Must not lose. Let's see who's joining us this evening then on YouTube and Twitter. Stephen Dyer, how are you? We've got Aaron Kay, who is currently on Eurostar on the way back from Rotterdam, potentially scouting for the next Senesi, who scored in that goal last weekend. We'll talk about that very, very soon. Chris, how are you? We've also got Carl Whitehouse. Good evening from a Wolves fan, and my late dad, who was a Cherries fan, still keep a close eye on his team. Thank you very much. We've got AFC Bournemouth Germany. We've also got Cameron Meach. How are you? Good evening to Mark Singleton, Abby. We've got Jean, who says, let's rock and roll this weekend. Sammy, evening all. Good to have you join us, Carl. Nice to keep an eye on your dad's team. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Please do interact. We've got Morgan Scott joining us this evening. He was caught at a sort of academy game the other day. So good to see you, Morgan. We've got James Burnett. Looking forward to the podcast and an away win. That would be nice. We've also got Sean. Hey, peeps, I'm really confident, but only if we keep the same tactics. Absolutely all. We've got her game too. AFC Bournemouth ambassador Heather, how are you? And Ray Ticket from Australia is also joining us. So absolutely loads of you online live with us right now on YouTube, and going to be lots to talk about. Let's go back though, shall we, Matt, to the first game between the teams. It was, well, Bournemouth had just sacked and got rid of Scott Parker after a bit of a drubbing at Anfield. Wolves were bottom of the league, lowest goal scorers. 0-0 was the game back at Dean Court back in September. Felt like a fair result. Gary O'Neill's first game as interim, and a Lloyd Kelly clearance off the line did need to save us for that point. But yeah, it was a good point for both teams at the time.
Yeah, it was. It was obviously the start of Gary O'Neill's reign with us, and I think his primary objective that day or that night was to just keep us solid, really, take the point, which we did. We set up to do that, kept a clean sheet, which instilled a little bit of confidence and belief in the group and in the team, which obviously evaporated from us, particularly in the games previous, no more so than the drubbing at Anfield. So it was an important point that night because we had to claw something back from somewhere. We had to, kickstart our season again. After what had happened, it was really damaging, wasn't it, to the confidence, to the morale, and to the whole group with everything that's had gone on with Scott Parker, what he'd said, and after that shipping of 9 goals at Anfield, the big defeat at Man City after getting off to a great start. So it just felt like it was just a solid point and a really important point at the time. And then obviously we kicked on from there for a short period of time. But a very different game on Saturday. The two teams, I think, the two clubs are very different, even to what they were back then in late August or whatever it was. I'm expecting a very different Wolves team, and obviously a very different Bournemouth team, and a very different game completely on Saturday.
A different Wolves team. They are very much nowadays. They are managed, head coached by Lopetegui, who's a very, very experienced head coach. He's managed Spain. He's managed Real Madrid, Seville. I think he's got a Europa League final medal under his belt. And he's come on and he's very much took them to better heights than they were. I think they only got something like, not many points up to like 15 games. And I put it on Twitter earlier on, and he's taken them past double points what they've got in half the time. And Lopetegui is a guy that seems to have a plan. He seems to have regrouped Wolves. They've got out the relegation zone. Their form's pretty decent going into this game. And they recently beat Liverpool 3-0. So they've got a very, very good manager who is going to give them a chance at staying in this Premier League, which looked very bleak before him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one thing that he has done with Wolves is he's got them scoring goals. He's got them creating chances, which they weren't doing at all. I think they were the lowest goal scorers in the league for a lot of the season. He's managed to turn that round in recent games, and he's made them more of a threat going forward. They've obviously added to their ranks as well. They've strengthened a bit like we have. And they, like I said, they look a completely different animal and a completely different team to the one we saw at Dean Court. And the one we saw even up towards the World Cup and beyond. You can see it there. It's the stats are there to see. I think there's a lot of zeros and a lot of ones there. Whereas, to score 3 goals without reply against Liverpool, score 2 goals with 10 men away at Southampton, albeit a very poor Southampton team at the moment. But it just proves that they're on the front foot. They're showing intent, purpose, and they're digging in. They're fighting for their manager. He's got them playing. He's using his experience. He's using his managerial skills to good effect at the moment. So, I've heard a lot of people this week talk about the fact that this is a must-win game, as I touched upon at the start of the show, Kirk. But for me, it's a really, really tough ask for us to go to Molineux and win after what they've done in recent weeks. I think these are a decent side, and to win there is going to be a huge challenge. One that we're capable of. We've picked up of late as well ourselves. Very encouraging display last week, obviously against Newcastle, much better. But this is still a really tough assignment for me. I'd still be relatively happy coming out of it undefeated, albeit we've got what looks a really tricky and tough run of fixtures then coming up. But take each game as it comes, each game at a time, because ultimately we've got to get points from somewhere. So there's no denying that it is an important one on Saturday.
13 points since the World Cup ended. Exactly right there from Carl Robbins. Also joined us, also Luke Andrews. And last time out for them, Matt, was that win with 10 men against Southampton. That would see the end of short reign of Nathan Jones, and Southampton fans weren't keen on him. I was actually quite happy to see Nathan Jones go in at Southampton up the road, but he didn't last very long, and they're currently managerless. They haven't solved their problems. They thought they were going to get Jesse Marsh in, and that didn't happen. But it was Wolves 2, Southampton 1. So they go into this fixture with back-to-back wins. They're very confident.
Yeah, they will. They'll go into it massively. I mean, to go one down at St Mary's in such a pivotal game, and then not just go one down, but go a man down. That just shows the character that's been instilled into the group for me. and it must be encouraging to see from a Wolves fans point of view, and it's very encouraging, obviously, from the manager and the coaching team to see, because a lot of teams, lesser teams, especially ones struggling down the bottom that are short on confidence, would have crumbled in that scenario. 1-0 down to a relegation rival and down to 10 men as well. You don't see a way back. So I was quite shocked, really. Like I say, Southampton, for me, are probably at the moment the worst team in the league. But I was still really shocked to see him turn that round. Not just to salvage a point, but to show that intent and that character to go for the win and pull the win out of the bag. It was really impressive. I must be honest, having watched the highlights back as well, looked at the goals, looked at the way they went about it. It was really, really impressive from an outsider looking in. So, yeah, plenty to be concerned about, shall we say, on Saturday when Wolves as the host team with what they did to Liverpool as well at Molineux last time out. But plenty to be positive as well, I think, about from a Bournemouth point of view and from recent weeks too.
Matt Curley, Dawson was a clever signing for them. When we talk about a player in a moment that got man the match for us last weekend, Dawson's been a very good signing for Wolves by the look of it, but they did get Lemina sent off at the weekend in that victory, so he'll be a loss for them. But to get an opposition view now from a Wolves fan, from Dazzling Dave from Always Wolves, let's see how he's feeling ahead of this fixture on Saturday at Molineux.
Hey Kurt, it's Dave here from Always Wolves Fan TV on YouTube, and you've asked me to give you a little bit of give my thoughts ahead of this game, Wolves versus AFC Bournemouth at Molineux at the weekend. Well, looking ahead to the game, really looking forward to it actually. I love the fact that Bournemouth are in the Premier League, and I think the Bournemouth fans are fantastic, and you've had a really really great time since you've been in the Premier League. It's been a tough season for you guys this season. Obviously, O'Neill took over and had a really good run. And then, of course, you've had around, I think it's 8 without a win. Your new owner's come in, and obviously he's invested some money into the team. And at Christmas time, obviously before the World Cup, Wolves were rock bottom. We managed to get Julian Lopetegui in as our manager, and he'd managed the Spanish national time. Real Madrid took Sevilla, won the Europa League with Sevilla, and he's got lots of experience. And Wolves owners have invested in some really good players, Lemina, Sarabia. We've bought Joe Gomez in. We've bought about 6 players during the transfer window to bolster the squad. Dawson as well from West Ham has been great since he came in. And, results have turned round. Before Lopetegui, we got like 10 points up until that point. Since he's come in about 7 games or something like that, we've got 13 points. We were completely disjointed. We had no style of play. We were unfit. Since that Lopetegui's come in and we've had the World Cup break and the pre-season, things have changed massively for Wolves. The confidence is back, the fitness is back, the new players are making a difference. We're getting players back from injury, like Neto, for example, will be available for the first time, probably to come off the bench against Bournemouth. And we beat Liverpool 3-0. We absolutely battered them to start with. They had a little bit of a spell and we hit them on the break. We weren't scoring goals. Now we are scoring goals. We scored 3 away in the FA Cup as well against them. We played last weekend against Southampton on the South Coast, down to 10 men, losing 1-0. We came back and won 2-1. Wolves' form is transformed. And for that reason, as much as I like Bournemouth and stuff like that, I don't really give you much hope for this fixture. And I know Bournemouth fans are probably going to say, well, I would say that. But believe me, like 2 months ago, I wouldn't have said it. The form that Wolves are in, the confidence, the belief, the fight, everything about the team at the moment is a team that's going upwards. And if you can come back away from home, being 1-0 down and win the game 2-1, beat Liverpool 3-0, if we beat Bournemouth, it'll be 3 wins on the bounce. Our form suggests that we're going to win this game. I can't see, as much as I'd like to say for you guys, I can't see how Bournemouth are going to get anything from this particular game. And I think it'll end up being 2 or 3-0, maybe 1 to Wolves. I might be regretting saying that after the game, but I just feel so confident of this fixture. And it's a fixture that, Wolves got to pull themselves away from the relegation zone. They've got to basically put Bournemouth to bed and win the game. And I think that's what will happen. And I do wish you all the best for the rest of the season, because I do like Bournemouth and the Bournemouth fans, but it's going to be it's not going to be as close as what you're thinking or saying in your preview on my channel, mate. I just think Wolves will win fairly convincingly this particular game. All the best. Dave here from Always Wolves Fan TV.
Thank you to Dave there for giving us an opposition view, and he is very, very confident, Matt, going into this game. And let's take a look at the predicted 11 from Fantasy Football Scout. You can check them out online, and they just have a look at what the players might be going into this fixture. We've talked about Dawson, and some of the fans of Wolves have talked about Dawson in the chat. Moutinho's in there. Ruben Neves is a very, very good player for them. They're a strong side, and we know that they've got players on the bench that can also hurt if they need to change their formation and their lineup during the game, Matt.
Yeah, looking at their side, what one thing that I admire about them as well at the moment, and I'm waxing lyrical about them really, which is difficult for me to do. And I certainly, as the Wolves fan said there in the preview a couple of months ago, you wouldn't have been saying any of this, but they've solidified. So they look fairly solid at the back. I think signing of Dawson's a good one. So they look far more solid at the back. But technically, going forward, you look at the likes of Ruben Neves and Moutinho. You give them time and space on the football, and they're gonna destroy you. It's not something that we can afford to do, because technically in the final third they've got some really gifted, talented footballers from a technical ability viewpoint, and they're starting to create chances and put the ball in the back of the net as well. With the type of football they're playing, how they set up, and those technical players in the final third as well, they're making things count. So we're really going to have to get to grips with them in the midfield first and foremost. For me, it's always where games are won and lost, particularly these type of games. I'm at a loss to know why Ben Pearson has gone out on loan, because for me, one thing we lack within the squad is an enforcer and a real number 6, if you like. We haven't got enough of them. Jeff Lerma can do it. We know that. Is Lewis Cook that player? Maybe, maybe not. I don't see anybody else. I know Phil Billings dropped back there in recent weeks, and he's done well. Got man of the match, I think, against Newcastle. And he's looked okay in the role. He's looked really good. But I wouldn't call him an enforcer. And we need somebody to try and stifle their threat and make sure that we're having our fair share of the play as well, to be able to, open the play up to get our attacking players on the move. And yeah, we look really short in that area, and this is a game where we perhaps need it a little bit more than some others, particularly at home. So that's a concern. So it'll be interesting to see how Gary combats that, really. But getting to grips with that midfield for me is going to be a key area.
Definitely is, and Wolves look confident. They're in form, and they look strong going into this fixture. Please do subscribe to the channel. 40 of you currently joining us live on YouTube for this preview. If you weren't able to catch us live, thank you so much for watching this video back, and do let us know your thoughts in the comments. Please do that. I also want to put a little bit of a shout out right now in this preview to our monthly members, people who contribute to help this channel happen throughout the season and enable us to do these types of streams. So thank you to you and anyone who has donated. You can donate or become a member at buymeacoffee.com/Cherries Red Army. Simply subscribing and hitting the like button also works absolutely well for us. So thank you very much. That's Wolves then. That's the home team at Molineux at the weekend. But it's time to move on, Matt, to the Cherries and Bournemouth. And let's go back to last weekend, which was a unique fixture for us against Newcastle. It was a balancing act. Eddie was coming home for the first time. We never got to say thank you or goodbye. The fans had to get behind the team, no matter how you feel about the current setup that's putting that team on the pitch. And then we had to pick up points, because we know it's going to be a tough ask to stay in this league. We know it's going to be a battle, and we have to pick up points very, very soon. It felt, Matt, like the Newcastle 1-1 was just a fair result all round. I thought the crowd were good in the stadium throughout. It was one of the best atmospheres I've heard all season. I thought we performed pretty well. We held our own. And then we got to appreciate Eddie Howe right at the end. It just felt perfect. I wanted 3 points, but if it wasn't 3 points, that was probably the best way all of that could have gone into one package.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it says a lot that I wasn't actually that impressed with Newcastle, and they've had a phenomenal season so far. We've seen how good they can be, particularly in attacking areas, and how solid they were at the back. But I don't think it's ever been in doubt, Kirk, that the players are not giving their all on the pitch. So anybody that levies that criticism at the management team, the coaching staff, or the players, that they've got to put more in and they've got to show more. There's no doubt in my mind that they're given 100%, and they always have all season. What they needed was some help on the pitch, and what Gary O'Neill needed was some help off the pitch. He hasn't had that in terms of an experienced backroom member coming in to help him, helping an experienced manager like Gary is. But what he has got now is he's got some help on the pitch. I think we've been really good in the January when we've ended up with a really good window. It looked like it might not be a very good window at all, but it's ended up potentially being a very good one with some of the players and some of the quality that's been brought in that was badly needed for me, and it's showing on the pitch now. Not only are we committed and we're giving 100% effort, we're actually showing that we've got some quality as well. And one of the things that I noted last week is we looked solid enough, not just for spells in games, but for the whole 90 minutes we looked solid. Stephen Dyer's bang on, by the way. Neto has made a huge difference to that with his experience, and making him captain is a great move, a masterstroke, I would say, because we look far more solid at the back and steady for 90 minutes, not just for bits for 60 minutes in a game and throwing it away. We looked solid all game, so that was encouraging. But we also looked to threat going forward, which we haven't always done this season. In many a game, you just can't see a score and a goal. Whereas I thought on Saturday, we had that about us. When we broke at pace. We've got pace in good areas now. We've got players in midfield tucked in behind that can create, that can make things happen. And arguably, we could and should have won the game if Dom Solanke's, obviously his chance goes in injury time. We're coming out 2-1 winners, which would have been a phenomenal result and would have given the team and the club a phenomenal lift as well. And it's just what we needed. And it's difficult to argue against us, not deserving it or deserving it really, because I felt that we probably did overall. And to go toe to toe like that with a side like Newcastle, who are sort of third, fourth in the league and have been most of the season, we all know what Eddie Howe's all about and what he gets out of players. Yeah, I was really encouraged and I was really pleased, and I think we've got to use that now as a bit of a moment to kick on from, and make sure that we kick on from this platform, if you like, that we built ourselves. It started at Brighton. We were encouraged. It was encouraging for sort of 70 minutes there, and it was encouraging for 95 minutes last Saturday. And we've got to kick on from that now, because ultimately we need points to stay in the division.
It was a building block. I think there were some really good performances in that game for Newcastle, like you spoke about. You look at Jack Stevens, that got man of the match. They've shown that on the club website, and he's keeping out arguably player of the season, Chris Mepham. You know that Hamed Traore has settled in very, very quickly, a player that can take us up the pitch, give us that drive, what we've been calling out for, that pace all season. And he's got ability and creativity in his feet as well. I thought Philip Billing had a good game, considering we're playing him in a 2 alongside Jeff Lerma. Utara's offering something down the left-hand side, very direct, very quick feet. I think sometimes he gives the ball away a bit quick. I think sometimes I want him to hold it a little bit longer, and he's trying to get those 1-2 triangles in. On the other side, you've got Jaden Anthony, who's playing himself into a bit of form. He's definitely a little bit of a favourite now. And Gary O'Neill wasn't getting picked at all as like a starter, and now he's playing it pretty much every match. But we'll come back to the predicted 11 in a bit. And Dom Solanke, someone who we were crying out for. He was like a sight for sore eyes for me. His energy, everything about him just sort of brought back down to the defence, and we just played as a team and we worked together, and the energy was in the stadium, the energy was on the pitch, and it was great to see, Matt. And I've talked about loads of good players there, but I want to pick off one more player that I want to talk about and get your opinion on. And Carl, actually a Wolves fan, said, who is your key player to watch out for? Now, he might not be the key player in hurting the opposition. But I want to talk about someone you have sort of mentioned already, Matt. This is a player that I think has not probably had his greatest season, but he's definitely come back and been himself in the last two. And you just spoke about it. And that is Jeff Lerma. He had, in the last two games, his best ratings overall in 90 minutes against Brighton and Newcastle. He was fantastic against Newcastle. 4 out of 4 ground duels, 3 out of 4 aerials, touches 50. He's been brilliant. Is it no coincidence, Matt, that he's been in this form because we've now got better players ahead of him and he can focus on just doing what he does in breaking the play and starting the play, where before maybe he was having to do a little bit more?
I think, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I was going to respond with answer-wise, Kirk. You've probably hit the nail on the head. I think one thing about not having too many number sixes in the squad and in the team, you can say to Jeff Lerma, and if you're going to manage Jeff Lerma properly, you can actually say to put your arm around him and say, look, you are our number 6, you are our enforcer. This is what we've got, as you rightly say there, Kurt, we've got players in front of you now that can do their thing with the football. We've got pace in front of you. We've got technical ability in front of you in the final third. Don't worry about it. Just sit back, play the role that you do the best, which is that number 6 role, that holding role almost in front of the back four, and do your thing, Jeff, because we paid 25 million for you. Keep your temperament right and just do your thing and let the players in front of you do their thing with the football and create the chances and score the goals. And I think we've seen that from Jeff Lerma, as you say, Kirk, the last few games since the January window's closed and since we brought these new players in. The only worry for me, of course, is if he were to pick up an injury or if he loses his nut, like we know he's capable of, and he ends up getting banned for 5 games. Where does that leave us? That leaves us incredibly short in that department. So that would be my only concern. But at the moment, we're getting the best out of Jeff Lerma, and long may that continue. I think it has to continue if we're going to have any chance of staying in this division.
It's a good point you make because, Matt, Jeff Lerma's only had 3 yellow cards this season, no red cards. And some might say that's where his game's gone because you don't want to lose that bite. And he's sort of adapted his game to maybe be in more football matches throughout a season because we know that referees and officials can be a little bit harsh on him, or that's how it seems. But absolutely right. A quick shout out as well, Matt, while we were just talking about it. Dom Solanke, as I said, sight for sore eyes, his energy just got us going from top to bottom. And he needs to go score goals. If we're going to stay up this season, he's going to need to add goals, but he's more than that, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been a huge miss, hasn't he? And it's no coincidence. With the greatest respect, Kiefer Moore was signed to get us out of the Championship, just like a lot of the players were last season. They were signed with one thing in mind, and that was to get us out of that league. But at Premier League level, ultimately, he does slow us down, and we've been ineffective. Let's be honest. Dom Solanke comes back into the fold. He's got zip about him. He runs the channels. He drops deep. He looks a threat. He links up with Phil Billing. He links up with the wide men. He's mobile, technically very good. He's developed his game so much. He works his absolute socks off, and he knows where the back of the net is. His all-round game offers you so much, particularly when you're playing with players with pace and ability in and around you. The likes of Traore behind and Jadon Anthony wide with the pace he's on with Tara. This is where you're going to create. You're going to hurt teams. And with Jeff Lerma holding and setting that all off, if you like, and letting them go and push forward as a unit and as a team, this is where we can be effective. But Dom Solanke is pivotal to that. He really is. He's the focal point, if you like, and he's been sorely missed. It's no coincidence. And I thought he was fantastic last Saturday. Yeah, his all-round game, barring if he'd have scored that goal in the last minute, it would have been a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 performance from Dom. And that's all it was. That's all it lacked, really, was a goal.
Tavernier also come off the bench as well, just like Stephen spoke about. That was a great sight as well. And is he going to be in that predicted 11, which I'm going to put on the screen in about 3 minutes? But for all those positives we just spoke about, Matt, we do need to also bring ourselves into reality. And this is reality where we're at the moment. On the road, 1 win all season against Nottingham Forest back in September, 2 draws, 8 losses. If we're going to achieve the miracle of staying up, we need to improve on the road as well as do well at home.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, I mean, I think I was reading an interview that the Echo did with Eddie Howe earlier in the week, and he feels that it was great to see him, speaking out and still showing his love and affection for the club, because he's been pretty guarded with that, hasn't he, Eddie? He's held his cards very close to his chest in not getting emotionally involved or attached to anything. But I think that came flooding out, didn't it, after the game last Saturday, and that was great to see. The lap that he did, clapping the supporters all around the stadium, and the ovation that he got was phenomenal, to be honest. And it did bring a tear to my eye, and it sent a bit of a shiver down the spine, really, because he'll never be forgotten what he's done for this football club, and arguably, it may never be repeated. So that was brilliant. But going back to my point, what he said in the Echo in the week is that he feels that we can stay up, no danger whatsoever. But what he feels is key is the home form. We've got to make the vitality of Fortress. We've got to get the crowd on side. We've got to make it really, really difficult for teams coming here. That said, that is very true. That said, we're going to have to pick up points on the road as well. We've still got to go to Wolves on Saturday. We've got to go to Southampton.
Yeah.
We've still got teams in and around
Arsenal.
us to travel to. Aston Villa, only sort of mid-table. We've got to be looking to pick up points in those games, because we are behind the 8 ball. I don't think 40 points will be needed to start this year. I think it's more likely to be around about the sort of 36, 37 maximum for me. But where we are at the moment, we're a long way off that. So we can't just rely on our home form. We need to start picking points up on the road too. And it has to really start, this Saturday for me.
The projected number to stay in this league on average before a ball's kicked in the season is 38. I was having a look at this the other day, Matt, and I actually think 35 will be enough. And actually 5 out of the last 7 seasons, 35 would have kept you up. And I think 35 will be enough. I think we'll gauge that a little bit more as the games start to tick off. But you are right. We're going to have to start picking up something on the road. We've got some tough games. Carl's also said, how many goals have you scored on the road? 9. I think I did see that the other day. So I think it's 9 goals on the road. Right. Who will start for the Cherries then at the weekend? Well, in collaboration with Pitch Football, you'll see this on Twitter and Instagram tomorrow. Please do like it and share it. If you agree or not agree, do let us know your thoughts. So I've given this to Pitch Football today. This is what I'm going for, Matt. You haven't even seen this yet, Matt. Okay, so I've sent this over, so I'll get your thoughts on it. I've got Tavernier in the image. I've gone for Neto. I've gone for Adam Smith, Stevens, Senesi, Samura, Lerma, Billing, Utara, Traore, Tavernier, come back to that in a moment, and Dom Solanke. Senesi, I think, has been seen in training, Matt, so I think the injury he come off with lower back, I think he'll be okay. There is a question in whether you play Fredericks or Smith, but I think Smith would probably get the nod. And although I don't think Jaden Anthony's done anything wrong, really, Tavernier came off the bench in preparation to play this game. I think it's a must win. You think it's a must not lose, but that's my prediction. Your thoughts, and anyone in the chat, let me know what you think.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Kirk. To be honest, I was sort of debating in my mind before we led up to this starting 11 whether I'd go with Tavernier or Anthony. And I just think Tavernier has come on in leaps and bounds. The injury happened at the worst possible time for him, because, start of the season, he took time to adapt to this level. And you were questioning whether he had the quality to make it, because he would get into some good positions, he would run a lot, and then his final product was not great. But he's obviously been working, and they've been working hard behind the scenes on that, because that has started to come good. It's come to fruition. And when he delivers that final product and that killing pass, or even putting the ball in the back of the net, he's capable of. He's shown that he's capable of doing. When he's got that about his game, for me, you have to play him. I think back to Leeds away. I think he had a phenomenal game that day. That was the birth of him, really, at this level, because I thought he was. They couldn't live with him all game, albeit we chucked the game away, but from an offensive point of view, he was excellent. He was absolutely fantastic, and he was showing that end product that we all needed to see from him. So if he's back and he's fit and he's firing, then I think you've got to include him in the side. And at Middlesbrough, I think at times they played him at wing back. They've even played him at left back. For me, play him as far up the pitch as you can, because offensively is where he's going to hurt teams. I think he's got that about him. He's got pace. He's got strength. He's athletic. And if he's starting to show his final product is coming good, which it has done, then that can only be of a benefit to us, and it's a threat to the opposition. So, yeah, I'd go along with that 11. I think just covering it in brief, Jack Stevens, excellent, been phenomenal. Always thought it was, he's got Premier League experience. I always thought, why wouldn't you sign him for nothing, really? Apart from his wages, why not go with it? And he's proven that he's a Premier League centre half. And I thought he's been fantastic. And I thought he was solid as a rock last week. And he's keeping out Chris Metham, who, by the way, has been phenomenal as well. So that shows you how good he's been, Jack Stevens. So he keeps his place. If Senesi's fit, that would be great. Lloyd Kelly's taken out the firing line, and for me, I think that's for the best, because his confidence is shot to pieces. He was getting some dogs abuse. I remember Brentford away. I've gone on record to talk about that, but I thought that was thoroughly out of order. But it's obviously affected the lad. He's had his captaincy taken away. And I just think that's probably for the best at the moment, because he needs to build again and build his confidence, get back to full fitness on the training ground, and maybe be introduced again gradually. So I think that's probably a good thing. Fredericks for Smudge, Stephen Dyer says, probably not at the moment. I mean, Fredericks has been disappointing for me this season, albeit he's been injured again for a lot of it, which has been the story of his career. But would I take Smithy out for Fredericks at this point, with all Smithy's experience and what he can offer? Probably not tomorrow. I'd probably go Smithy. Fredericks has got a lot to prove for me and a lot to show. So yeah, I think the rest of the team really is picking itself. Traore's looked good. Ouattara's looked good. He's got pace to burn. So he can. He just needs to work on his end product, but that'll come, I think. So I think that's us. Yeah, I think that's the team that we go in with, and we go in with a positive mindset.
Yeah, still expect Kelly to be injured. Sabani, I think, is still going to be injured. Samura, I think, will continue to keep Bina out at the moment. And Smudge for Fredericks is a fine shout there, Stephen. Fredericks came on and did okay, like he has done previously when he's come on for those brief appearances. I suppose Fredericks gives you that overlap and extra pace. We know Smudge hasn't quite got the legs to get up and down anymore, but I think Smith's playing okay. I think he's always there for the taking sometimes from a set piece defending point of view, but I think that's what you get with Adam Smith. But I think it'll be Adam Smith. Ray's also gone in for Paul from Australia. No penalties this season. Absolutely none. What do we expect? And Matt has gone in for Dom's heat map was crazy. He was everywhere. He definitely was. And I tell you what, we've got to get going in the chat crazy now is your score predictions. It's that moment in the preview where we want you to tell us what you think the score will be between Wolves and AFC Bournemouth. It's your 1 minute warning. We'll also take a look at the other fixtures in the Premier League. Time for those score predictions in the chat. There are other games going on this weekend, though. If you didn't know, of course you did. We've got Aston Villa taking on Arsenal. Arsenal lost again last night against Manchester City. Are the wheels coming off? Potentially. That's at Villa Park. Brentford against Crystal Palace. Wolves versus Bournemouth. Brighton, Fulham. Everton, Leeds. Chelsea, Southampton. Nottingham Forest against Manchester City. Newcastle, Liverpool. Man United, Leicester. Tottenham, West Ham. While those score predictions are going in the chat, Matt, you've got Nottingham Forest against Manchester City at home. Everton, Leeds. Leeds currently looking for a manager still as well. Some fixtures in there with Southampton having to go to Stamford Bridge that we might want to keep an eye on. We know that we've got to focus on Bournemouth, but we're going to need results potentially to go our way as well.
Yeah, some huge games in there that it's going to affect things at the bottom of the table. I mean, Everton, Leeds springs out to me. That's a real 6 pointer, that one. Southampton going to Chelsea, that's obviously going to be a tough ask. And is it Nottingham Forest against Man City as well?
Yep.
You'd like to hope that both of those two teams would be dropping some points, but you just never know. Football being football. But yeah, I think West Ham go to Tottenham as well. You'd fancy Spurs to come through that one on paper. But yeah, I always say I'm only really worried about what we do. It's at the moment, it's in our hands. We haven't got to rely on snookers at the moment, and we don't want to be either, because we need to affect what we do. It's all about what we do from here on in, and we need to put points on the board and not focus too much on what anybody else is doing. Let's just worry about ourselves and get the job done ourselves without having to rely on anyone else.
But it would be nice for Chelsea to beat Southampton at Stamford Bridge as well, just to keep that team up the road below us still anyway. But we need to pick up points. So, Matt, think about your score then. There are score predictions going in the chat. Bournemouth and Wolves fans, I think, are entering their scores in there. And I'm going to give you mine. I do think, and the thumbnail told you this, it's a must-win game. We have got fixtures coming up against Manchester City, Arsenal. Who knows what Liverpool team's going to turn up to Dean Court when that fixture comes round. If we're going to stay up, if we're going to get to those 35 points that I think you're going to need, we have to win this fixture at Molineux, and we need to change that stat of not winning any games since September on the road. We've got to change it, and it's going to be open, I think, Matt. I think this game's going to be a little bit open. You said it earlier on. There's a lot of results for Wolves where they're like 0-0s, 1-0s, 2-1. I don't think, although Dave from Always Wolves think it might be a 2-3-0, I don't think it is. I think this is going to go down to the wire, and I think if one team wins it, it'll be a 2-1. And of course, I've got to remain positive and optimistic. And I'm going to match what Cameron has said in the chat. And I'm going to go for Bournemouth 2, Wolves 1. Maybe we take the lead, Wolves equalise, and we get a late winner through Traore or Utara or even Dom Solanke. But I'm going for 2-1. Caption has gone for 3-1. That's the famous 3-1. Sean has gone for 3-1 as well. Stephen Dye is going in for a sneaky 1-0. I don't think we keep many clean sheets in this league, but we're probably due a clean sheet. So hang in there, Stephen. Carl, thanks for joining us. Wolves fan, he's gone for 2-1. And we've also got Mark's prediction of 2-1 to the Cherries and Bev's prediction of 3-1, the famous, and we'll get Sammy's famous 3-1 in there as well. Matt, let's pause it there in the chat. So there's some positive predictions from the Cherries. We expect it. If we're going to stay up, if we're not going to get relegated, we've got to start winning football matches. What's your score prediction?
Well, I come on here every time I come on. I'll always be positive as a Bournemouth fan. I'm never going to predict a defeat, really. But heart and head, you can go with two predictions, can't you? And they're both going to be. Sometimes they're going to be very, very different. So I think Wolves, although I've waxed lyrical about them and raved about how good they've been recently, rightly so, because they have been, and it is a concern. They've hit form. The manager's a very experienced, good manager, rate him very highly. Got some good players, really good footballers in their ranks, but there'll be bumps in the road for them still. At this level, there certainly will, and we haven't won away since September. We're desperate to make things happen. They've got a little bit of a buffer there. I think the key for me, Kirk, is who scores first. I've been to Molineux a couple of times, and their fans will really get behind them in a game like this, particularly if they get the opening goal. You get their tails up, their fans get with them. The stadium's rocking. It can be a noisy venue to play at, and once they get going, they can sweep you aside, as Liverpool found out a couple of weeks ago. If they score first, I think we're in trouble. Really do. If we score first and quieten the crowd and give ourselves encouragement and confidence, I think we can go on and win the game. For me, and it's like that a lot, really. It's the first team that scores. The team that scores first is key. None more so than on Saturday. I think if we can get the first goal, we've got a real chance. If we concede it, particularly quite early on in the game, we're in a bit of trouble, I think. I'm going to go with, look, last time I went to Molineux was 2015 when we went up our promotion season. We won 2-1. It was an unbelievable day. We were 1-0 down at half-time. Arthur and Richie scored the goal second half and we won 2-1. I'm going to mirror that prediction. So I'm going to say the same as Cameron. I'm going to go 2-1. Dom has got to score sooner or later. I'm going to say he's going to score on Saturday. And the other goal, I'm going to go with Traore to net one as well. Nice. 2-1 Bournemouth.
Nice. I can remember that 2-0 that we lost. We were poor that day, but it was worse than that was the weather. It was wet. Yeah, it was wind. It was like horrible. The coldest rain in the world.
Awful
I
day that was.
Remember that for all the wrong reasons. Going for a 2-1 though, Matt. Another Matt, Curly, is going for 1-1. Morgan Scott is feeling very confident. He's going in 5-0. Chris is going for an away win. Let's go. 2-1. Wing has to be 0-2 or 2-1 away win. We are due a clean sheet. Sammy is loving Morgan's confidence. Phoenix, let's go optimistic. 2-1 away win. Wing going for the 2-0. He's going for the 2-0. Paul is going for, I think, 1-0 to the Cherries, I think. And Mark Singleton is also joining that. Pete, thanks for joining us. It's 2-1. Gene is going for, I honestly think, 3-1 Cherries. They're a different team and you can see it in the play. We need to build on last weekend. I think that's the end of the sort of predictions in there, and there's a lot of good prediction. Thank you for everyone who's got involved on this match preview in the interactive chat. Matt, there's some confidence. I mean, when we get a little bit of a buzz, like we did last weekend, we do sort of get optimistic and we do feel positive going into the next fixture. And it's a game that we should fancy ourselves to try and get something from. When we're looking at fixtures at the start of the season and where we're going to pick up points to get to 38, which is your projected target, you're going to look at games like this where you might be able to nick something. Maybe if we had had more points on the board up to this point, we could have gone there for a point, but I think we need to go for 3. The big question mark for me in your summary of this preview as we wrap it up, Matt, is I want to know now whether last weekend was the unique occasion that the crowd were up for it, that some of the players wanted to perform in front of Eddie, the Eddie Howe effect of coming back for the first time, Gary O'Neill maybe getting up for the occasion as well. Can we build on that? If we fall back into our old ways and we still don't pick up a win as head coach that he's been confirmed as, then I think there's real problems. We've got to build on the positives from last weekend. We've got to be proactive. We've got to turn the ball over well, and we've got to have a go, Matt. We've got to have a go. If we don't build on what we did last weekend, for me, it's just a waste.
Yeah, I mean, look, there has to be a balance to it. We can't go to Molineux and open the game up. That would be completely stupid thing to do, wouldn't it? Because they'll pick you off. They've got the ability to pick us off if we're going to be wide open and just go gung ho. But we have to pick our moments, and I thought we did that perfectly last weekend at home to Newcastle. And it's about how we approach it away. I thought we did it well at Brighton as well for 65 minutes. But we've got to be clinical. We said it all season. And be clinical in both boxes. We've got to make sure we don't give anything silly away at the back and stay resolute and solid at the back. But we've also got to take our chances when they come along. You know, you look back to the games, Leeds away, where we've had these opportunities to bury games and really put teams to the sword, and we've not done it. You know, if we're creating these chances, they've got to go in the back of the net. This is a ruthless division at this level, and we've got to take those chances when they're presented to us. That's the key.
Matt, it's been great to have you on this preview. I know you've had a couple of weeks off, so yeah, it's great to have you back, and enjoy the game on Saturday if you can. Thank you very much.
Yeah, always great to be here, Kirk. Pleasure to debate AFC Bournemouth with you and everybody else in the chat. Some great comments. I love it. I love coming on. Real pleasure. So thanks as always for having me. And anybody going to Wolves on Saturday, safe journey. Hopefully I'll see loads of you up there. We'll be in the boozer pre-match, and let's hope for another great away day with AFC Bournemouth. It's about time, isn't it? We've waited a while for one.
Thank you to everyone in the chat. We've had both Bournemouth and Wolves fans in there. It's been a good spirit in there. It's refreshing.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Let's just hope for a good match. What I would say at this point for the content over this weekend, I am out of action this weekend. I will be catching up with the Cherries, but I'm out of action. But don't panic. We have got, hopefully, a live reaction on YouTube with John Spark and Aaron Kay about 5:10, 5:15. So hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. I'll also send out a Twitter post as well. So look, if after the game you might be heading back from Molineux, you might be listening to it at home, watching it at home if you can. So look, log into YouTube live and get a perspective from John and Aaron and get your thoughts in there as well. Hit the like button on this video though. Thank you if you've watched this video back and you couldn't join us live. Do let us know your thoughts in a comment, your thoughts on the team, the score predictions. I want to read them. I want to see them. So do put them in there. But thank you to everyone that's joined us on this stream. Thanks for joining me and Matt. It's Bournemouth versus Wolves. Wolves want to climb the table a little bit further, and Bournemouth are trying to head up, trying to get out that relegation zone, because we've got to try and find potentially 35 points between now and the end of the season. Look after yourselves between now and kickoff. Thank you for joining me and Matt, and we'll see you on the next video. Up the Cherries.
Up the Cherries.